Used Toy Show. How you doing?
Yeah.
Hey. Well, I'm Eric Westman, psychologist, professor, and full-time nerd, and I love having wonderful conversations with wonderful folks. Thank you all for coming out. Our panelist today is none other than WWE professional wrestling superstar, Jerry the King Lawler. Please help me once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I've just a couple warm-up questions here, and then we'll turn it over to the audience. The first one I got is just, can you tell us a little about how you got into the business of wrestling?
Oh boy, that's a long, go back a while. I have to go back 50 years for that. I had been a wrestling fan with my dad. I was going to high school and driving him. He was poor health, and I would drive him to the wrestling matches live wrestling matches on Monday nights. And I didn't really at that time think about being a wrestler, but it went through my mind afterwards. But anyway, let's see. I think it was the same year that I graduated, and I was 19 or maybe 18, like 18, and my dad passed away, and he was buried on my 19th birthday. Then I was doing artwork a lot then, and I was drawing some pictures that my dad and I would go to the matches on Monday night, and I would draw some pictures of matches of what took place at the matches. And after he passed away, some friends of mine down there said, you ought to take some of your artwork and send them into the TV station. They might show it on TV. So I grabbed up a bunch of my drawings, sent them into Lance Russell, who was the big head announcer then. And I sat there one Saturday morning, never heard back from Lance or anybody, but I got sat there and turned the TV on, and there comes Lance and Dave sitting at their desk, and I looked, and there on the corner of their desk, I could see my drawings were sitting on their desk, and I went, wow, this is going to be cool. So sure enough, about halfway through this show, and like I said, this is like 1970. They didn't do a lot of TV coverage of the wrestling at that time. So about halfway through the show, Lance said to Dave Brown, he says, well, you know, we don't have enough money to send a TV crew out there to show everybody what had happened. We just come out here and tell them, well, today we got a fan out there named Jerry Lawler, and we're just gonna look at his pictures and show us what took place in the matches on Monday night. And I just sat there like a kid under crazy heaven or something. And the time went by, some friends of mine called me, said they saw the artwork. And after the show was over, my phone rang, and it was Lance Russell, the voice of wrestling. And he said, hey, we liked your artwork, and we wondered if you would come back and come over and draw next week, and we could use you as like their ringside artist. And I said, oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. So the very next week I went over to the TV station, and that's where I got to meet some of the big name wrestlers and some of the guys that you would know by now. But Jackie Fargo was a big name wrestler in Memphis, and he introduced me to Lance Russell, introduced me to Jackie Fargo, and that was like a, you know, kid meeting Santa Claus at Christmas time. He told me later on, he said, if I could get in touch with you sometime, not here at the wrestling matches, but if you could come down to my restaurant. I didn't even know he had one. He said, if you could come down to my restaurant, I said, I have some stuff I'd like you to draw down there. And so I went down, started drawing for him. And that, I was just like a kid in high school. And so anyway, after let me try to shorten this story up a little bit. And it went a while up there, and a young kid named I've had a couple of strokes a few months ago, and I've done a lot of stuff to my memory, but I can't remember this kid's name. But he came up to the door where at his restaurant, and I was working there doing art work, and this kid came in and he said, I came by and wanted to meet Jackie Fargo. And I said, well, he's not here right now, I can't introduce you to him. And he said, I said, what do you want to meet him for? And he said, I want him to get me started wrestling. And I said, well, tell me how you got started, because I'm looking at getting into wrestling myself. And he said, well, I'm already wrestling, but not for the big name. I'm wrestling from this little group in West Memphis, Arkansas, which is a little town right west of Memphis. And I never knew they had wrestling there, but there's little bitty independent shows. And he said, now, if you're gonna wrestle, you're gonna need tights, some wrestling boots, all this stuff. And I said, yeah, I don't know where you get it. He said, well, I got an extra pair of wrestling boots I can sell you, and some tights and all this stuff. So I made some money off of this. I mean, the kid made some money off of me. I just bought a pair of boots, and I went with him that Saturday night to it was an old it was a rundown movie studio where they showed movies, and it was gone out of business, and it's just been sitting there. And this old promoter now was renting it out on Saturday night and set a ring down in the front of the building and let some guys come in there and wrestle. And so he said, I'm going to take you over and meet this guy and tell him that you don't tell him the truth. Tell him that you've wrestled before, and if he's asked you where, just tell him you wrestled down in Florida. And I said, okay. So we went over there to the promoter's place, and he introduced me to him. And he said, well, you don't look so hot right now. You've wrestled before? I said, oh yes sir, I've wrestled down in Florida. And he said, oh really? Who'd you wrestle for? The guy didn't tell me that, and I would, I can't remember his name. He said, okay, I'll keep your number and I'll give you a call sometime. And I said, well, this is something else I forgot to tell you a while ago. Jackie Fargo put me on a wrestling, a wrestling show that he had on the radio, and he had me doing the nighttime show because nobody else wanted that show. So I was doing 7 to midnight on this radio station, and so at that time that I told that promoter, I said, well, whenever you can use me, call me, and I can plug your matches on the radio show that I own every night. And he said, what? And I said, oh yeah, I can just talk about your wrestling matches on there for not cost you nothing. He said, okay, you and the guy's name was Terry. He said, you and Terry are going to be the main event next Saturday night. I said, really? He said, can you talk about it on the radio? I said, yes, sir. So I went back and I talked about it all week long on the radio, and went over, had a wrestling match, my first time ever in a wrestling ring, and I don't know, I just tried to do some stuff that I'd seen the big time wrestlers do in Memphis, and there was a young Mexican wrestler on the scene there, and his name was Young Anaya, and I remember in the match he had, he wrestled these guys, the Blue Infernos, and they grabbed him and about his hair and his tights and just ran him across the ring, and he threw him out of the ring, and he didn't grab the ropes or anything, he just threw, it was flying through the air, landed on the floor and got up and finished the match. And I was so impressed with that, I just said, well, this is my first match, I'm going to try that. So my partner Terry started the match. He came over and tagged me, and I came in and I told the guy, I said, just grab me and throw me out of the ring. So he grabbed me by the hair and tights, threw me out of the ring. The next thing I remember was being in the back, sitting in a chair, and they fanned me with a towel. And I said, what happened? He said, well, you flew out of the ring and heard a big knock, and that was your head hitting the concrete floor, and you were knocked out for about 5 minutes. So anyway, that was my first wrestling match. I made a whopping $6 for that big one move match. But I got Jackie Fargo's attention by talking about the wrestling on on my radio show, and he called me over the next week and he said, "Hey, if you could go over there and talk about their wrestling, I'll get you a match for the Nick Goulas, who was a big promoter at the time in Memphis. I thought, I'll get you a match for those guys if you don't talk about the wrestling match in West Memphis anymore." So I didn't, and I stopped. I was so excited that the following week I booked on Memphis TV to get my brains beat out, but I didn't care. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world to wrestle on TV, and to me that was I didn't care if I got beat or not. I just wrestling on TV, and so that's how I got my start, and I wrestled there for, oh gosh, like a year before I won a match. And so that's how I got started in the wrestling business right there.
Thank you for that trip. I'm going to open up now to some audience questions. Back and up in the front.
Hey Jerry, can you tell the people how you won the title King of Memphis?
Well, that came about with Jackie Fargo as well. I worked my way up to where I got past the semi-final, and they finally put me in the main event against Jackie Fargo. And I went out on TV one day, just not even know what I was going to say, and I just said, you know, Fargo, you've been the king of the ring around here in Memphis, but you're looking now at the kid who's going to knock you off your throne, and I'm going to be the king here. And I went on and won that match, and not even thinking about the interview, but as I was going back to the locker room, kids were saying, "Hey, you're the king, you're the king," and that was on a Monday night, and that Friday night I was wrestling in Atlanta, and my first match down there, sitting in the dressing room, and I looked up, and in comes this guy, and he has a beautiful crown, a robe, and everything in his hands, and his name was oh my gosh, there goes my mind again. Bobby, no. Oh gosh. Anyway, he was wrestling as the king. What's his name? Anyway, he was wrestling, and I told him what I just did at TV, and I said that the live TV is going to be in the morning, and he said, "Well, you know what? I'm going to leave it tomorrow to go to Australia for 4 weeks, and I'm not going as the king. I don't have to carry all this stuff." He said, "So why don't you carry this crown with you tomorrow night, tomorrow on TV, and he said, you can order one." He gave me a place to order it from, and he tell me where to order the crown. And I could use his until he got back, and so then I showed up the next day. I was the king of after beating Jackie Fargo, and the funny thing, 4 weeks later, when he came back from the original king, he came back from Australia, and the first week back, he got killed in a plane crash in Florida. And so I was stuck with his crown, and been this king ever since. Bobby Shane, King Bobby Shane. That's him. Good memory.
Hi, Jerry.
Yes.
Is it true that Andy Kaufman protected the wrestling business so much that his family hated you until the movie came out?
That's exactly true. I've never met any of his family until the premiere of the movie in Hollywood. As a matter of fact, is where they premiered it, and that's where I first met his father. And he came up, shook my hand, and he said, "I just want you to know that we hated you all this time from the first time you gave Andy that pile driver, and my wife and brother and sister, we've all hated you until the movie came out." So it was nice. Yes, sir. How did I get into WWE? Well, that was about maybe 20 years after I started wrestling. I had gone from the time I started wrestling for Jackie Fargo to only going up to wrestling to the main event, and then finally me and Jerry Jarrett, we started a company of our own, and I owned it. Me and Jerry Jarrett owned the Continental Wrestling Association, and it was about time that Vince was going through this big deal about steroids and all this stuff. He was about to go. I think he was going to go to jail, and he called down there and hired me to come and wrestle for him up there. And he said, this was the first time this ever happened. He said, "I know you own that company down there, and you can continue to own that company and still work down there. Just come and work for me part-time up here." So I went up and worked for him. I had some good feuds with Brett Hedman Hart, and just the once guys again that drank all the time. Yeah, Jake Roberts, and all of these guys I had these feuds with, and then one night he said, at that time Randy
Orton?
Yes, Randy Orton. No, not Randy Orton. Yes, Randy Pothole. Anyway, the Macho Man. He was doing the commentating with Vince at the time, and we were somewhere in the, I don't know where, but somewhere the Pocono Mountains or something like that, and we're on a different time zone than the WWE, the WCW, and I remember all day long that day, Vince was walking around looking for Randy Savage. He said, when Savage gets here, send him to my office. I need to talk to him. And they went over an hour before ours told, and we were getting ready to start in about an hour, and somebody said, "Hey Vince, you want to know where Randy Savage is?" Took it to look at the TV, and he looked at the TV, and there was Randy on the WCW show. And I mean, the way I've said it all this time, he didn't sell it. Vince didn't sell it at all. He didn't make a big deal out of it. He just saw him on TV, and he looked around. And he said, "King, I want you to do color commentary for me tonight, and I'll have somebody else to take your place next week. But if you do it for me tonight, I'll appreciate it." I said, "Okay." And anyway, then 20 years later, I'm still there, just doing it.
mentioned you did art, or used to. Is that something that if you wouldn't have gotten into wrestling, you probably would have got to continue, or did you have other plans in your life that you would have, if you would have gotten into wrestling?
You know, I never really had plans for my life, what I was doing. I was always doing artwork, and I've never really, when I got to graduating from high school, that's the time I started wrestling. So I just figured that's what I was doing. Somebody asked me earlier tonight, would you do it if you do it all over again? Would you do it the same with your career? And I said, yeah. Everything that I've done in my life, I've done it with good intentions, and it's all turned out good for me. So here I am. I turned November 29th is my birthday, and I had a big, I didn't like to mention my birthday. It was that's okay. Yes. Anyway, on my birthday, it was something that I don't. Anybody in here has got to have this happen to you yet, but I turned 75 years old, and at 75, the good thing when you go to fly on an airplane, you don't have to take your shoes off anymore to get on the plane. So I went to walk through and then kept the shoes on, and I said, well, I'm happy to be 75 now.
Hey, Jerry, In your top 10 toughest matches, would you consider when you and Terry Funk had the empty arena match one of your top 10?
Yeah, it would. It would be in my top 10. He was. People ask me sometimes who is my favorite wrestler, and he's all the way at the top of the list. Terry Funk was such a neat guy, and I was talking to him on the phone right up until a month before he died. He had Alzheimer's real bad, but he would remember me, and he was just a funny guy to have a match with. He would, you just grab him, punch him, and he's going to take a bump out of the ring, go into the front row seats, come out with a chair over his head. I'm in the ring, just hide my face and keep from laughing at him. But he was just that kind of guy, really was.
Okay, well, we're going to have to sort of wrap up here. Maybe you back to your table to meet the fans one-on-one. But before we go, do you have any sort of social media that fans can connect with you on?
You know what? Since the strokes and everything, I don't really do that much on it. And plus,
What was Twitter, now X, I guess?
Twitter.
X-Twitter?
Yeah. Yeah, while I was on that, I had over almost 2 million followers. And somebody hacked in my account, and it's gone. And same thing with my Facebook. There's people out there that do this stuff to your accounts, and I don't know what pleasure they get out of doing, but they do it. So anyway.
Well, we thank you for joining us here in East Moline. So we can listen to your stories. You'll be here both today and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow, yes.
Excellent. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for coming out to the show and to the panel. Please. Enjoy the rest of your show.
Yes, please.